Meetings are also broadcast live on Burlington Cable Access TV, and video audio recordings will be made. The access code for tonight's meeting is 2358-747-342, and the password is Tuesday. For this meeting tonight, we have two school committee members who are participating remotely, Melissa Massardo and Martha Simon. They both will be participating remotely because of geographic distance. The first item after that is the warrant.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. So I'm going to mark Ms. Massardo is absent at the moment. Is she joined? Ms. Massardo, we're voting on the warrant. Can you hear her or see a hand? Yes, we do now. Yay or nay? Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Ms. Simon? And I'm an aye. 5-0-0. Next item is the minutes. And we're going to, do I have a motion for the minutes from 6/14/22?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, I'm going to go through roll call again. Ms. Monaco? Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Ms. Simon? Ms. Massardo? And I'm an aye. 4-0-1. Okay, and we're going to now approve the minutes from 6/28/22.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Monaco? Foss?
Aye.
Simon? Ms. Massardo? I'm an aye, and it's 4-0. Next item is public participation. And what I'll do is, I don't know if there's anyone on virtually who wants to participate. What I'll do is alternate between in-person and virtual, just to kind of be fair. So everybody knows that. Anybody present in the room who would like to come up? And please announce your name loudly into the mic. Make sure the mic is on. That way everyone knows who you are. And you can pull that closer to your mouth. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Magnorelli, and I'm a resident. I'd like to start off by saying that there's still some people in Burlington that are enraged about some of the social media posts by some of the administration that are still here. But I don't want to dwell on that. I wanted to talk a little bit about policy, about social media. And instead of telling you what I think, I wanted to read to you an article from Education Week that was written. It was written in February 18, 2016. And the person who wrote this is clairvoyant. It's really representative of today. And in fact, I think it's important, not, by today's times proverbially, but I mean like specifically today. And the article, it says it's a 1-minute read, so if you bear with me, the title of it is Educators Shouldn't Act Differently on Social Media. The article was written by Patrick Clark. It starts off, you are what you post. It continues, now this is the author, I'm not going to add any color comments. As someone who is a big proponent of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. as tools to communicate, connect, and learn, I often get asked about the downside of social media use for educators. My honest answer is I really don't see a downside for educators in using social media tools for the purposes I mentioned above. The two biggest reasons for educators to be using social media are as follows. The author bolded this. Educators need to model the use of these online communication resources in a responsible manner. Secondly, bolded. Excuse me. Social media provides an avenue for educators to amplify their voices and share the great work happening in their classrooms at a time when teachers and schools are often viewed with disdain. The author continues, I was asked about this topic by Tanya Ross-Gorla from the Center for Digital Education in her recent article, How Should Educators Act on Social Media? Here is my response. The author is quoting themselves. If people out themselves as intolerant, ignorant people on social media, I think it's a good thing. And they shouldn't be in those positions to begin with. End quote. The author continues, I really don't think the answer to the question about how educators should act on social media should be any different than the answer to the question, how should educators act? We should not be partaking in illegal behavior, period. Well, the headlines and negative PR that come back to the school districts due to the inappropriate online behavior of their employees is certainly unfortunate. The unveiling of individuals who seek to do harm to others with their words and or actions is an unintended benefit. Last paragraph. He then states, finally, let us be clear on the most important part of this topic. Social media is not the cause of inappropriate behavior. It is a vehicle for communication that can highlight both the positive and the negative actions and comments of individuals. He then states, all we can really control is our own actions. That is nothing new. I'd like to submit a copy of each of these to the committee as you think about your agenda item number 9A today, which is discussion about the contract of the assistant superintendent. I assume that means the assistant superintendent of for learning for Burlington, Mr. Larkin? Okay, I just want to make, because there is no assistant superintendent. There is, so maybe that's a typo on your website. Would it be okay? I wanted to just hand these off.
Dr. Connie, I'll come get them from you. And do you have any other comments you want to make at this point, or want to just pass that out and you're done, or?
Pass
And
it out and I'm done.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you for what you do.
Mr. Cuna, any hands up online?
To the chair, there is, I'm not sure of the person's name, as to how it's web. So there is a user on WebEx with hand raised.
The person on WebEx with their hand raised, could you please identify yourself? We can't tell. I'm sorry, could you repeat your name again? Okay, thank you. And just a reminder to everybody here, we get 3 minutes to speak. I forgot to mention that. Please go ahead, George. I didn't. Oh. Okay, sir, can we move on to what other comments or questions you might have? Sir, please. She has the right to abstain if she was not present at a meeting. Yes, she is, but she was not able to attend those meetings. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make? I said, do you have any other comments or you would like to make on some other subject? Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments. We'll go right to left. You have 2 people coming in? Excuse me, sir. We're done. I'm on to the next person. Thank you. Yes, could you please announce who you both are, I guess? And then we'll be happy to listen to what you speak about.
I'm Tracy. We're both residents of Burlington, twin daughters at Marshall's School. We are here today because we are concerned about the So I'd like to know what is the status of the program and if there's any other information you can give us this time.
Dr. Conti, would you like to comment?
Sure, I'll do what I can. We have Ms. Purchase in the room too, so we can comment. So we are looking at the BEAM program in relation to some of the parameters that the school stated in terms of equity and access. So it's a good opportunity. The middle school is currently under a 2-year review of their schedule and programming, so BEAM is going to be part of that. I believe at this time we're going to continue this purchase for 7th and 8th graders who are in the BEAM program. And what we're looking at doing is trying to redefine the BEAM program and make sure that all students have access to the program however we define it. So part of the challenges with BEAM is I've gotten lots of emails and phone calls, as you can imagine. Everyone who's talked to me about it describes it differently in terms of the purpose of it. Is it an enrichment program? Is it a social emotional support? Is it a gifted and talented program? All of those things. My student wasn't challenged in class and was challenged in BEAM. Those are all important statements, and they reflect not only on BEAM, but they reflect on the core classes if students are being challenged there as well. So I just think we need to look at it. The most important thing for me is making sure it's a high-quality program, that it's research-based, and that all students have access to it once the program is well-defined. And again, I'm not sure if I asked 10 people, I would probably get 10 different definitions. And then looking at how 5th graders are identified is, I think we just need to be more transparent if, in fact, we are going to be identifying students. So I think over time, everything sort of erodes a little bit. We fall into patterns. I think it's a good time for us to relook at the BEAM program, how we're identifying the kids, who we are identifying, what the purpose of the program is, and do all kids have access to whatever the purpose of the program is. If it's enrichment, what I would contend is all students are entitled to enrichment, and how we create that opportunity in our classroom. If it's just challenge, then we need to rethink how we're challenging students in our classes, in the core classes. I think if it's about social emotional support, there are other ways that we can potentially provide that support. I think the outcomes and the experiences of the students are positive, and I'm taking more than my 3 minutes. I apologize. But it's not just about the outcomes of the students who are in the program. It's about who we're denying access to the program, because there are certain students who aren't qualifying, whatever that means. And I think we just need to be really careful about how we're limiting access to programs. And I think that's what we want to take time to do, while continuing the experience that these current students who are in it will continue to support them moving forward. The grade 6 students haven't experienced it yet. I think maybe some older siblings have. And even in my conversations with some 5th grade teachers, I'm not sure they have all of them have a clear awareness of the program. And that's honestly just because we have lots of turnover. We have some new 5th grade teachers, and I just think we need to reestablish it. My understanding is BEAM has had 2 teachers in its history. So it's been around, I think, quite a while, but I think we haven't necessarily looked at it in relation to, again, who has access and what the purpose is of the program. So again, I want to make sure I'm answering your question. So we're really looking at it carefully. We've talked, again, about potentially bringing BEAM to more students. In fact, again, if it's an enrichment piece, if it's people have also described it as a gifted and talented program, but I can tell you it's not functioning now as a gifted and talented program. And if it is a gifted and talented program and the school committee wants it to continue, then we really need to look at what it is we're doing and who has access to the gifted and talented program. So that's kind of what our goal is here. So long-winded answer, but it's a pretty complicated puzzle, because again, everyone seems to have a different definition of it, And then when I speak to parents whose children weren't accepted, they don't understand why that is either. So we just have to clarify, again, what the purpose is and who has access to it and how it fits into the overall middle school program.
So my follow-up to that, will you be deciding that as a school board, or will you be taking in consideration and thoughts of the parents?
I think parents are part. Harry, you want to? So
Karen, do you want to come up and talk in the mic? Just so everyone can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I think that your point is in question is a good question. I think that we do need to have a formal process to look at the program, look at it through multiple lenses, and get feedback from all stakeholders, including families that are currently in the program, alum of the program, and also educators and others. I think it's really important to take a step back and define the future of what this is going to look like. And I think there's an opportunity to, one, create a shared vision for not just what BEAM should be, but what the curricular program at Marshall Simons Middle School is, and how we get there. Because I believe all students should have access to a high-quality instructional program, and learning should be personalized. So how do we do that and still meet the needs of learners who are currently in the program? And as Dr. Conti said, what is the intent of the program? Because I think that there are other opportunities to expand some of what it doesn't provide for students. So long answer, but families will be included in that. And I think it's going to be important to get all voices at the table and look at it from a variety of lenses.
Thank you.
If I could have just one more minute.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. It is definitely beneficial. As the parents of twin girls that are very, very different, we recognize the feeling of equity or inequity that can exist in kids in school. We see it at home every day. They're in very different spectrums of their education and their abilities. So we're not insensitive to that at all. But as we progress forward, I would implore the school committee and the school board members, Dr. Conti, to use your own equity statement that's contained here, where you talk about ensuring every child belongs and receives whatever support he, she, they need to develop their full academic, emotional, and social potential. What we've seen in our daughter who's been participating in BEAM in the last year is she came out of her shell, she's blossomed, and she comes home excited every day, absolutely loves it. And just the fact that she comes home talking about the stock market, it's kind of crazy that she's so excited about it. But it's shown that it's working, and it's bringing forward an education level that she's not getting in the regular classroom. So utilizing the equity statement as the basis of consideration going forward to ensure we're doing that, because it has been hugely beneficial. And I hate to see that go. I know going forward she'll be able to continue for now, but I'd hate to see that disappear for anybody else, because there is a very strong benefit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Monaco would like to make a comment as well.
Usually, Dr. Conti and I see eye to eye on many things, not this one. So I'm going to go right out on a limb here and make my voice heard at this table. Ordinarily, I sit here and I talk about the needs of our special ed children and how important those needs are, and how we need to do everything for them, and I argue for them left, right, and center. But tonight I'm going to say that in order to be equitable, we need to do the very same thing for our gifted and talented children. Now, I happen to be in the unusual situation of having been not on the school committee, but prior to my lengthy journey on the school committee, I had children in elementary school when the BEAM program was initiated. It was then, and should be now, a program exclusively for the gifted and talented. I don't know where this enrichment thing came from. I do know that at one point years ago, the whole scene got watered down a little, and I think maybe enrichment became adopted as a way to broaden the program. But the program started out in 4th grade. It was for 4th and 5th graders, and then it went on into the middle school. And it has always been gifted and talented, or should have always been. That's how it was designed. The way that the children were accepted into BEAM was they took an IQ test, and maybe that sounds not equitable because of all the anti-testing rhetoric that you hear these days. But the fact is, there was a cutoff, and if you got a higher score than the cutoff, you got into BEAM. And if you got a lower score than the cutoff, you didn't get into BEAM. And the way I always looked at it at the middle school was it was a special program for those kids who could really do 5 days worth of work in 4 days. So as these kids go on to the high school, they can take honors courses, they can take AP courses, but when they're in the middle school, they're stuck. They're all stuck on the same page. And there are very few opportunities for the really bright kids to go above and beyond. There is no honors course. There is no AP course.
It's like everybody's the same. And it's an age-old problem with that age group that those kids get bored. So personally, I am terribly opposed to doing anything but maybe fix the BEAM program. It horrifies me to think that the 6th graders are going to get shut out, that they're not going to have a BEAM program. I do think there are plenty of opportunities for enrichment throughout the school and throughout every class. I mean, a lot of math teachers, or a lot of, I don't know, what other subject it might fit in, they can teach kids about the stock market, and that's great. That's enrichment for everybody. But the BEAM program is it's for the nerds, let's face it. It's for the nerds. It's gifted and talented nerds. And I am just very much opposed to not providing that for every class. And as far as equity goes, if you're talking about a child who has whose primary language is another language, test them in another language, but don't limit the ability of these kids that are really high achieving kids to take this program. And it's good for them. And I'm sorry, I don't agree with you, Eric, but I don't. I want BEAM to continue. And if you need to fix it, fix it. But don't take it away, even from the incoming 6th graders. So I don't know if the school committee ever gets to vote. I know we voted, I didn't because I wasn't on the board yet, on implementing the program. I don't know if we get to vote on taking it away, but if we do, I'll vote no to take it away. I think I made that pretty clear.
I know there's a raised hand, but I do want to add to that. I completely agree with Ms. Monaco on this. My daughter actually did participate in BEAM as well. And goes back to the statement, the belongs and receives whatever support they need to develop their own full academic, emotional, and social potential. And of the letters that I read from the students, past students, that's what they got out of it as well. Aside from being challenged, they were with a group of kids who were of like mind. They challenged each other. And to me, that was an invaluable lesson for them. Again, I'll take whoever's hand is up virtually.
Okay.
Please.
So there's actually 5.
5 hands.
And
And are they to comment on additionally on BEAM, or are you all done?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
So pick the first person whose hand
Yeah.
was up.
So I have them in order. So the first person online is Kevin Parker.
Kevin
Sure.
Parker?
Thank you for recognizing me. Good evening to Dr. Connie and Mr. Larkin. It's a pleasure to see you again. My name is Kevin Parker. I'm a 2010 graduate of Burlington High School and a BEAM participant from 2003 to 2006. I'm sharing this with you after just spending a day teaching physics to middle school students at Phillips Academy Andover's summer session. During the academic year, I teach physics and engineering at Pingree School in South Hamilton, Massachusetts, an independent day school. I also lecture at Northeastern University about engineering. I would not be teaching without the BEAM program. Mildred Nash and Sue Rogers were models of teachers who asked you to have a boundless approach to knowing more. Without BEAM, I would not have had the support of a peer group that so valued curiosity and academic freedom, inspiring me to learn for learning's sake and take on a career path that followed that aim of learning for learning's sake. I speak highly about the Burlington Public School System in professional circles, primarily because of BEAM. It's a distinctive program because of the teachers that school leadership placed running it. I know the research on gifted and talented programs. I know that they're out of fashion in ed circles. When not done right, they contribute to inequity. I can imagine why the school committee, why school leadership doesn't see concrete value in the program when balancing a tight budget. I understand the comments from your school leadership so far. They are exemplary in what school leadership should be. The optics aren't what they were once for it. You need a STEM coach, you need a curriculum designer, or some other role trying to achieve the same thing you achieved when BEAM was established, a distinctive middle school in vogue with current educational research. But find the right teacher for this role, and you can have all of the impacts of those roles in Marshall Simons. With this program funded, you can continue to have a cohort of students that go back into their classroom and normalize academic curiosity. They provide a level of peer-to-peer influence valuable for the entire school, for the entire town's learning community. There's another critical element at play here that has already been referenced. Ms. Monaco, I cannot tell you how much it means to me to hear your comments, specifically given the fact that I was 13 years old the last time I sat on the floor of the school committee room listening to the fact that maybe I wasn't going to get to participate in BEAM. BEAM is an affinity space for the kids so threatened by the pre-adolescent attitude that being a nerd is the worst thing you can possibly be. To allow this space for students who haven't been encouraged at home or by peers to pursue that deep, nerdy curiosity is life-saving for some. It has even greater potential for students experiencing barriers to accessing that curiosity time due to oppression based on social identity. I have primarily taught in institutions like Phillips Andover and Pingree with the most palpable evidence of inequitable access to gifted education, a $50,000 to $60,000 annual tuition barrier. Students don't need to hop that barrier in Burlington to have access to the type of curiosity that BEAM can foster, similar to these schools' environments. I work every day with the kids who ask for more work and want to know more. It's exhausting, it's constant. I only had 14 students in my classroom today. I wouldn't expect the teachers at Marshall Simons Middle School, burdened with much larger class sizes than I, to have the bandwidth to spend 30 minutes after class talking about a trigonometry problem. But as a teacher, I know why it's worth the extra energy because I had the experience in BEAM where a teacher said yes.
Sorry, your 3 minutes is up. Is there any other statement you want to make or closing statement?
I appreciate your time listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll go to the next person in the room.
Bob, you see my hand?
I do, but
We're going up.
the
we're
chair
running
is,
back and forth. Who's up? Who had her hand up?
there's 4 more people
Right,
online.
anyone from the school committee that was turned?
Melissa.
Melissa. Yeah. Melissa, I'm going to take her first, and then you can make comments after.
Okay.
Please identify yourself.
My name is Betsy Monaco Mansfield. I'm a mom of 4 in Burlington and also a product of Burlington schools. And I do have one daughter who is in the BEAM program. I have one who's also at the middle school who is not. And I myself am an alumni of the BEAM program. So I have a broad perspective, I think, on the whole picture. And I just want to speak in support of the program as well. I want to echo what everybody has really already said. I think it is true that there are some equity and access issues with BEAM. And I actually really appreciate the fact that Dr. Conti and Ms. Purchase want to address those because I think they need to be addressed. But I guess what I would urge you is not to throw the program out for the sake of fixing those problems. I do think that BEAM, it provides a lot of different things, you know. I don't know if enrichment is the word I would use so much as it is access to the curriculum in a different way. And I think these kids really need that. And, you know, that should be our goal for all kids, right? Is to meet them where they're at and to give them that free and fair education that every kid has a right to. And these kids, I think, need it in a different way and in a different venue for that one little day a week. I also think the issue of the sort of social part is big for these kids, and it's easy to overlook, you know, but middle school is very hard. And for the kids that are different, you know, being different for any reason is very hard. And we should be providing outlets for for all kids to not feel different. And Beam does that really well for this small group of kids. And I just think taking it away would be a big mistake. So I'd like to encourage you to look at, what's the right sort of approach to the screening so that we are actually putting the kids in the program who belong in the program, but not missing the kids that are maybe twice exceptional, right? There are plenty of high IQ kids who are different in other ways. And I think some of those kids are in Beam actually, maybe almost by accident. And maybe we need to be doing better at identifying them. But the ones who are there, they're getting a lot out of it because they don't have this sort of social stigma in the regular classroom. I think it's very hard for those kids to speak up and to say what they're thinking and to think outside the box when, they're worried about what the people around them think of them socially. And so I just would really encourage you to take all of that into the picture when you decide, obviously for my 7th grader, it isn't going to change things. So it isn't so much about me and my own kid, but having seen the program from all sides as a parent and as a participant, I just, I think it would be a shame to see it go.
Thank you, Betsy. Ms. Massardo?
I just want to say that I appreciate the history lesson on Beam, but I think we need to acknowledge that it's not currently as it was designed, 30 years ago. And I agree with Dr. Conti and Ms. Purchase that we need to decide what we want it to be. Is it an enrichment program? Is it a gifted and talented program? And bring it up to 2022 educational standards. I was in a gifted and talented program in the 90s. I don't want to take anything away from students, but I really do think we need to take a look at this program as a whole and see. I would love to see more of this enrichment. I read all the letters and all these kids in the stock market and the field trips, etc. I do not see why any of that shouldn't be offered to all students and integrated into the curriculum. And if we have true gifted and talented students that do need accelerated learning, I want that to be a separate program as well. But I agree with the parent that also said we need a qualified teacher. We have special ed teachers that are designing special ed programs for students who have certain needs. I would love to see if this is absorbed into a special ed program, or I would like just to see it run by someone who's qualified to run the program, a defined program, and I want to see transparent, equitable entry and really evaluation of the program. I don't think there's really any evaluation of how it meets the needs today. And I would really like to see a real look at the program. I don't want to take it away either, but I really want to see a definition and some real standards put into it that are meeting the needs of our students.
Thank you. We'll take a parent or another person who'd like to comment
So
online.
George was the next person who spoke earlier.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, George.
All right. Why don't you all lean on Rick Hayes? He's a professional. He's in town. He knows very well, talent from others. And also, I still want to know why Melissa has abstained from other votes.
Sir, we did explain that. We're going to move on to a different person.
Well, I have 3 minutes, right?
I would like to talk about it.
I have 3 minutes, right?
Yes, if you're going to speak about
so
items that we haven't already discussed.
Let me say this. Simons Park has a waiting policy that's 2 or 3 months long, right? Y'all could have high school students, Dr. Conti, you paying attention?
Yeah, I just want to know what you're talking about in relation to the schools.
Y'all could have
3 minutes to talk
volunteers
about whatever subject you
volunteer
want.
at Simons Park,
If you
provide services for eligible students or participants. And if you want to talk about anything else, speak to Rick Hayes. I mean, he's your go-to guy. He's from Burlington. He's very well versed on everything.
Okay.
What's the problem?
We're going to move to the next person, please.
Yeah, you do that.
All right, thank you. Anybody else present in the room who'd like to speak? Okay, thank you. We'll move to the next person online who had their hand up.
Mimi.
Mimi?
Bob,
You hear me?
Bob, Martha has her hand up.
Oh,
I know, but
we're gonna go with Mimi first, and then we can have Martha make a comment.
Okay, thank you. So, I came to this school committee meeting with a statement, but as I've had to wait and had the opportunity to listen to different speakers, I'm just going to free flow it because so many other things have come up. First, I'd like to address the school committee members directly. Ms. Monaco and Ms. Bond, you have both come out very strongly in favor of continuing with Beam. And of course, you are entitled to your decision. But I'd like to remind all of 5 of you that you are elected officials who are supposed to represent as many voices in town as possible. And while there have been parent speakers tonight who have carefully and thoughtfully explained their advocacy for Beam, you have not had any parents until me right now speak from a different perspective. I am in possession of a 2012 report on Beam. The report is entitled Beam Burlington Program Evaluation. It was conducted by an EDD named Carol Ruth Harris. And this report, now over a decade old, raised many of the concerns and criticisms that have been alluded to by various speakers. In this, Carol Harris's report, in the summary section of it, she talked about how all teachers should increase their knowledge and background in psychology and the education of the gifted. She most clearly was referring to this study as a study of gifted students in Burlington. So I am actually pleased that Ms. Monaco cut through all of it and said, this isn't about enrichment, this is about supporting gifted and talented students. However, I'd like to ask this. Since when did nerds become synonymous with gifted and talented? And what are the objective, nationally recognized standardized assessment measures for identifying the gifted and talented? The 2012 Beam report could not say what those were. Anecdotally, you have town meeting members who are in past their childbearing years with grown children who anecdotally share that their children were invited just by word of mouth. I like how your child thinks your child should be a part of Beam. There is standing, it sounds like a standing ovation that Beam is so wonderful for the kids it serves, but the entrance criteria is totally subjective. Moreover, it is by invitation only. 5th grade teachers at each of the elementary schools use their own discretion to recommend students for testing in the 6th grade. The students then, who are selected through a very partial, not impartial, subjective means, have to take a test. There has been much talk in many different settings about what this test is. Nobody can conclusively say what it is, other than that it is not anything recognized as a national standard for identifying the gifted. I'd also like to point out that it is a known fact that only 1 to 3% of the population, the entire population, is identified as gifted. Yet in each of the grades, approximately 30 to 40 students are pulled out of regular education classrooms for these quote unquote enrichment opportunities. So, despite Burlington's water problem, that would suggest that we have an extraordinarily high amount of gifted children. Tongue in cheek, obviously, that's not what I mean. If we are going to say to the school, to Dr. Conti and to Ms. Purchase and other school leaders that we want them to use the equity statement as their own guide for determining the fate of Beam, I would say to those who are saying that, then I'd like you to be looking into what is the impact of the BEAM program on students who do not participate? Is the racial and ethnic makeup of BEAM representative of the MSMS student population? Have we looked at the number of students who have been recommended to test for the program from each elementary school? I
Excuse
know.
me, you're at your 3 minutes. Could you wrap it up, please?
Yes, I'll try to wrap it up then.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to say that I know straight A sixth grade students who were neither invited to test for this program or who were not able to pass the test. The test, however, is totally subjective. And if anybody wants to argue otherwise, please provide the actual test to the building elementary school leaders and teachers who participate in this very discriminatory selection process that denies equal opportunity to so many of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. Ms. Simon, I know you had some comments you wanted to make as well.
Yes, I'll be brief. I have also received a lot of emails. I think there's a lot of important issues to be looked at, and I completely support Dr. Conti's approach, which is to review the purpose and the eligibility and the equity issues regarding BEAM rather than to just move forward. I think that it's been a valuable program to lots of students in the past, including my own daughters, but that doesn't mean we should continue it the way it's always been, especially where we have new lenses. And I really appreciate Dr. Conti taking this on to look at. I am concerned that we lose this kind of affinity space, that we lose what we need for certain students to feel good at middle school, which is a hard time for everybody. I think it's really important that we not end BEAM and do nothing. And in order to make a BEAM-like experience in every classroom is not very realistic to start, next year. It's something we could work on. But I look forward to supporting Dr. Conti in his efforts to make this something that's available to most of our, all of our students in some way or another. Or if we need to start a gifted and talented program, that is a specific special education category. And I would say that Dr. Conti, if he felt it was appropriate, could ask Ms. Ciccolini to look into that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Anyone else in the audience who's next in line?
Lee, online on the WebEx.
Hi,
Lee?
thank you. I submitted a letter. I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to make it today, so I won't reiterate what I had already submitted to you in my letter, but I do want to address a couple of things that have come up tonight. First of all, I'm very grateful to those of you who have spoke in support of continuing supporting these students in some way. And I'm not somebody who's, though I was a participant of the BEAM program, I recognize that there needs to be a reevaluation of the program and the entrance requirements. I think that is 100% fair, and I think it should be done on a regular basis. I don't think that we're going to come up with entrance requirements now that should stand 10 years from now. I think they need to be reevaluated often. I think to Ms. Massardo's point about offering these enrichment opportunities to other students, I think that would be wonderful. But I think that the teachers at Marshall Simons will tell you there is not enough time in the day to add this for everybody. And so it's been done in this way because these were students who could keep up with their work by attending classes 4 days a week. That doesn't necessarily mean that this is how it has to continue, but I think that it just isn't viable to add this quantity of enrichment across the board. My biggest concern is that we continue to support these students in some way. As was previously mentioned, this program was originally started at the fourth grade level. I was a member from fourth through eighth grade, and that's gone. So the program has already been reduced by 40%. Whether you agree with the program or not, I'm not entirely sure that those fourth and fifth grade students have been supported in alternate ways since the program has been reduced. So that would be something that I think really just needs to be looked at. And my last comment on this is when we talk about offering this as enrichment opportunities, there's a lot that gets lumped into enrichment, and many of these students enjoy and participate in many aspects of this. And I think oftentimes you have things like this competing against things like the music department, band, and chorus, and orchestra, and you're pulling, in many cases, from the same pool of kids and asking them to choose things that are not necessarily things that should be choices, but things that should be available. So thank you to all of you who are looking at this in a way of looking at it for looking forward to how can we continue to support these kids. I think that really needs to be the central question here, and just really encouraging you not to push it towards an enrichment model and really look at how best to support the the kids who oftentimes are left to work more independently and really could benefit from a lot more support.
Thank you, Lee. And we have one more person with their hand up online.
George raised his hand, who's already commented.
So no more? We're done. Joy?
George re-raised his hand.
Okay. Oh, yes, George, we're going to move on. You got your one chance. Ms. Monaco has a comment.
At some point in time, evidently, the entrance to being became subjective. I don't know anything about that. I thought that every child had to meet certain qualifications in a test. I do know that sometimes the fifth grade teachers don't recommend kids, and I think they should, but I don't think that matters. I think that in the changes that you may make, and I hope you make them over the summer so that we can still have BEAM in the fall, I think any child who wants to be tested or any parent who wants their child tested should have that option. I think that the requirements should be clear, should be stated, and should be transparent. So if we need to change the test, fix the test, or find a different test, or use combination criteria, I have no problem with any of that. Fix it. Do that. But I find it offensive to think that it's subjective. It shouldn't be subjective. And it shouldn't be based on what one fifth grade teacher thinks of a student. If that student wants to be tested, they should be tested. And if there's a better way to figure out who belongs in BEAM, then use the better way. But to completely eliminate the program for the incoming sixth graders, I am opposed to. And to the extent possible that as principal, Carrie and Eric as superintendent, to the extent possible that you can offer enrichment throughout the middle school, or even, I would even consider possibly having some leveling added that isn't there now. I know that's kind of anathema relative to middle school, but I'm telling you, middle school kids that are really ahead of the game get bored. And holding them back is no more equitable than any of the things we've been talking about. So I've said enough. I would like to see the program fixed, not be subjective, do what you need to do. Please don't eliminate it.
Thank you, Ms. Monaco. And I was going to make a comment as well. I didn't want anyone to misinterpret my support for BEAM either. I also believe that we need to look at, how people are getting into the program, who's getting into the program. Again, the purpose of the program. I think it's great to reevaluate all of that. So I did want to make that clear. Anyone else want to make a comment? Okay.
Was there someone?
Anyone else online?
So I just want to make sure that we end with some clarity. So this purchase, again, for parents out there, there will be a BEAM class scheduled for 7th and 8th graders moving forward. There's a teacher assigned to those experiences, and those students will be, the beam schedule won't be altered from how they're currently experiencing it.
So I think that the plan is that we have assigned a teacher, and that beam will continue for students who are currently identified in the program. I think that the scheduling piece and I think that the feedback and the questions are all really good questions, and I think that they all deserve the attention that they're worthy of. And I don't know that it's reasonable to get to all of those answers by August 27th or 29th. But I think that for our 7th and 8th grade beam students, we will continue the structure that has been, which they are removed from their core academic classes once out of 6 days currently. And then they do still attend. One of the folks on the WebEx commented, in lieu of, like, right now they're not missing band or other specials, but I think that that's, again, one of those questions that we need to really dig into is what is the schedule format? What does it do? And what is the impact on other students? So we do have 2 levels of math class at the middle school, advanced math and then the grade level math. And so they're, 1 out of 6 days, those students, many of them are beam students, so that's a smaller class on those days and otherwise. So I do think that we need to look at that impact and see what it looks like. And I do also want to say that I don't, I think that there are a lot of opportunities to expand our instructional program and to provide what students need, both from the social emotional level and from that place. And I think that, and while I don't have the list of studies and whatnot, but leveling at the middle school level is minimally supported by research. So, and I think that shouldn't take away from the fact that we need to meet the students' needs. So I would really urge us to take, while we're looking at this and figuring it out, again, just for clarity, because I'm going off on a tangent, Dr. Conti, is that we will continue the program for 7th and 8th grade. But I also think, the gentleman, Mr. Parker, who was the alum, also talked about the need for instructional coaching, supporting that. And I think that is where the opportunities are huge for all of our students, including our students who are ready for more. And that's not an easy feat and something that's going to happen overnight, but I lit up a little bit when he talked about that, because I do think that that's the future, and where we need to go. So I'll stop, because I'm not adding to the clarity.
I have one more question. On the leveling the math, how many grades are leveled for math?
So we are leveling all 3 grades this year. Last year, we didn't level 6th grade math because of coming out of the pandemic, and the missed instruction.
So it was 7th and 8th.
So it was 7th and 8th.
And before that, was it 7th and 8th, or was it just 8th for a while?
So I think the question is that on the schedule, so going back to the schedule before it was changed in 2019, 8th grade math used to say Algebra 1 for all students, and it was not a true Algebra 1 course. So when we looked at the schedule change, we changed the name of the courses to an advanced math. And I think we even internally haven't been really clear, is it advanced or accelerated? Because that's 2 different things. Advanced is going a different pace, more independently. Accelerated is compacting the curriculum, teaching more than 1 year standards within 1 year. So we're not offering an accelerated program from 6th, 7th, and 8th. We offer the advanced piece. What we do in 8th grade is we look at, we do teach some of the Algebra 1 standards, but not all of the Algebra 1 standards. So that's something longer term, I think that we really need to look at from a K-12 point of math, is to look at those trajectories in high school, the impact that it has. How are we getting students who want that opportunity to hit calculus? How do we get them there? And then what does the middle school need to do and the elementary schools need to do to help?
But that opportunity only exists in math, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Thank you. So I think that wraps up the public participation side of things. The next item on the agenda is information reports. Dr. Conti.
I don't have a subcommittee report at this time, and we don't have a student representative. Thank goodness, in July, and they're enjoying themselves, which is wonderful. Our student representative joined us in the fall. I'm not sure if Roger has a comment from Ways and Means, if he is on.
Actually, I think there are two people who have subcommittee comments that they want to make from the school committee. And then we'll move on to Ways and Means, if that's okay.
Sure.
Mr.
Roger,
Foss, I know you wanted to give an update on DEI.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So Ms. Bond and myself sat down this past weekend with BJ Edison Reed of the Townwide DEI Committee, and it was mostly a meet and greet to familiarize ourselves with each other, and it was a very pleasant morning over at True North. One of the things we discussed was the mission statement and or equity statement as we revised it last summer, and should we as a committee look at it again and add some diversity and inclusion language to that. And what Ms. Bond and I thought was at the upcoming equity workshops, I think we thought we're going to do them in the fall is the plan now. Maybe that's one of the topics we can discuss moving forward. That was about it.
Thank you. And Ms. Simon, you had approached me on email that you wanted to also make comments.
Yes, thank you. The new teacher's contract was ratified at the very end of our meeting on June 28th, and I would like to comment on it. Both of the negotiating teams, the BEA and the district's side, the school committee side, spent long, hard hours during the past 2 years during COVID. I want to thank all of them. We ratified a contract that both the BEA and the school committee agreed on. The school committee offered a substantial financial package, including a $500 bonus, because we want the teachers to know that we value their hard work through very difficult times. The contract negotiations were not completed until the very end of the fiscal year. The final ratification was not completed until June 28th. It just wasn't possible to process the bonus and retroactive pay in the first July check. I'm sorry that there was confusion and some people were disappointed or even angry that the retroactive payments were not included. I am pleased that educators received these payments in today's payroll. I hope this doesn't overshadow our appreciation for the teachers. Thank you especially to Ms. Kasha and the business office for all the people there who worked really hard to get that all accomplished in the last couple of weeks. And I truly wish all of our teachers, all of our staff, a restful and enjoyable summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. And then we'll go on to Ways and Means. Roger, do you have any comments?
He's not online.
Not online? Then we'll move on. All right, the next item is learning. Dr. Conti?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, this is more of an informational point for the school committee, and upcoming work is included in the fiscal 23 budget. There were resources set aside to have a MASC. They offer a service that is a policy review for the district. So we'll be contacting MASC. I think they told me later in July, early August is when they would be available, and they will be looking at our existing policies from, from in their entirety from the district perspective, and then providing us a report as to what policies are missing from their perspective and what policies they would recommend need to be updated. I just think that would save the committee a lot of time to have the body that oversees school committees for the Commonwealth provide that work for the committee. Again, they're not making policy decisions for Burlington. That's still the committee's job to do. But I think if they can narrow the scope of that work and just provide a roadmap for us to move forward, then I think we can make progress and fill the holes in our policy manual. And then they are also providing a service now that I think that we've set aside money to subscribe to, and they will maintain the Burlington Policy Manual online. And as the committee updates the policy manual, the digital version, they'll make those changes. So it creates a spot for public to view our policy forward. Again, I just want to restate, they're not making policy, they're not setting policy. That's all up to this committee, but they'll help us go through our existing policy manual, digitize our existing policy manual, more accessible to everybody.
What's the approximate fee for that? You said you put money aside, or do you?
Yeah.
10,000? Okay. Ms. Monaco, and then you want to make a comment too.
Please double check those fees, because my understanding way back, given an election from Mr. Sato way back to my age, but we looked at having the MASC do the policy, and we did subscribe to partial. And the complete one was more like 30,000 or more. And if you're talking about two different programs, one that would keep them online and one that would go over the MASC, going over the existing policies to make sure that we have them in shape. And I have no problem with either of those things, but I would like to know the full cost. I would be very surprised if having MASC go over all of our policies and then add in the other program. I think we're talking more money.
Through the chair, Ms. Monaco, I think that MASC as a body felt like there were many districts that could use support in their policy manual area, and I think that's feedback from school committee members in many different districts, not just Burlington. So I do believe they ramped up that part of their support for school committees. Again, I'll double check the price, but it wasn't in the $30,000 range.
I just pulled up the original estimate they provided, and it's $10,500, which.
For the analysis of our policy manual.
So that's MASC.
Yes.
And then what about the other one?
The maintenance to host it, it's 3,500.
How often? Is that an annual?
Is it annual?
If I could add
First year.
to the chair,
Ms. Simon, hold on.
The 3,500 is the first year hosting fee, so I think that would be
The annual fee.
Annual fees, okay.
Okay, thanks.
And just one moment, Mr. Fawcett wanted to ask a question, then I'll go with you, Ms. Simon. He's bowing to you now, Ms. Simon. You can go first, and then I'll have Carl make his comment.
well, I had my hand up, but I was just interjecting because I couldn't hear Ms. Kasha, and if you could all speak directly into the mics, that would be really helpful. And I was going to say what she just said, which is I understood it to be about $3,500 per year for 3 years. So Dr. Conti's $10,000 figure was for the whole project, but it could take more than 1 year. But did I hear you correctly, Nicole, that it's this year it's a $3,500 expense? Is that correct?
Ms. Kasha?
So the 3,500 is the initial hosting fee, so that they maintain our policies electronically. The other was the 10,500, which was the full review of our policies to identify ones that may need updating.
And that's all in this year's budget?
Correct.
Okay. And I can, my other comment.
Okay, and Mr. Foss?
Just curious how logistically it has worked. Does Ms. Presser come down here? Is it done online? Is she going to come to one of our meetings, or do you even know?
I have a call into Ms. Presser. I'm not even sure she's going to do the work. I believe she has a staff that will do the work, and I think we're going to be sending our policy manual to them, and then they will be giving us a report back. And I'm assuming they would be offering to fill some of the holes with existing MASC policy that then the school committee can adapt to Burlington if needed. So I think she's coordinating. I'm not sure if she will be here. This isn't a training, Mr. Foss, about which Ms. Presser typically does more of the training. I think this is just a pure policy analysis, and And again, like everything else, I think we have some areas that are complete and we'll have some areas that we have to revisit.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Martha, your hand's still up. Is that accidental?
No.
Okay.
I would like to comment. I'm really delighted that we are going to start this process with MASC. Since I've been on the school committee, I've been very concerned about the state of our policy manual. It's been difficult to find some of our policies at times. As Mr. Magnarelli pointed out last meeting, there are some policies that we tried to post and they're empty on the website. They may or may not be in our policy manual, but I think it's really important in a couple of ways. One is that we get our policies on the website, and MASC has a simple way to do that. We can choose not to use that in the end if we want, but it doesn't make any sense to me for us to duplicate their efforts. And a few years ago, I began to review with Ms. Monaco many of our policies and review with Dr. Conti, and we did revise and update some of them, but we didn't get very far. And it's a very time-consuming process that involved a lot of wordsmithing and things that I think could be much simplified by this process that MASC has a lot of experience with. I'm just really glad that it's finally in the budget for us to have this process begin. None of these policies will be implemented unless we as a committee vote a majority to approve them and accept them. But then we'll have a full set. When people go to our website and look for a policy like Mr. Magnarelli did, there will be something there. And I think that's really, really important. I think it's been part of the reason why some people feel the school committee hasn't been very transparent. And I'm really looking forward to this process and going through it and being careful and getting to the end where we will have a full set of policies that we did approve, that we do approve, that the rest of the community, whether they're families and parents of the district or whether they're other community members, can look them up and review them. So I'm really delighted that we're getting started with this.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Okay, would you like to move on to the next item, planning for success process?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to remind the committee, maybe step back. It's been a few years because of the pandemic that we've gotten away from our normal pattern of creating a district improvement plan and then having school improvement plans follow. So the planning for success process is it's a DESE-approved Department of Elementary and Secondary Education process that they approved in terms of our regulatory obligation to have a district improvement plan that is voted on by the school committee every year. So we are in the process of putting that plan together. I just wanted to inform the committee that you'll be receiving a draft of that plan in August. And then probably by the end of September, you'll be voting on that plan and then aligning my goals will be aligned to that plan in September. Principals will also be working on that plan, and we typically have 4 levels of school improvement plan. We'll have a preschool plan, we'll have a elementary plan, have a middle school, and then a high school plan. So, and then we will discuss the initiatives that we are working on and some of the outcomes that the school committee would like to see as a result. And again, instead of crisis management, which we've really been in for the last few years, I think I'd like things to be a little bit more predictable. I'd like the school committee to agree to some measurements that occur 2 or 3 times a year. Again, not 50 things, because we won't be able to do that. But if there are some measures that are critical, I'm sure enrollment might be one of them. I'm sure there'll be other things that we can discuss in regards to measurements of equity that we all agree to, measurements of learning that we all agree to, and other things. I think it would just allow us to get back into a pattern of more predictability, and that's why I just wanted to highlight it tonight. So it's going to be work that's rather technical. We also have sort of other aspects of the job that we need to do, and we'll continue with our conversations but I think we need to get back to some of the technical aspects that had to be set aside for the pandemic. Ms. Ciccolini, Ms. Concession in terms of mental health, Ms. Ciccolini in terms of special education, Ms. Lamprey in terms of the ELL students are all putting together plans that'll fall again under the district plan. And we're really trying to align our efforts, and then the school committee will really be able to prioritize where we're focusing. Things always come up. We'll always make adjustments for those things that come up, but I really want those to be the exception with sort of a predictable direction and a predictable focus moving forward. I think that'll help us with evaluation, and I think that will help us also with professional development. So I think that's, again, it's going to feel like a restart because we haven't been really for 2.5 years. We haven't been doing that. We've really been trying to manage in a public health crisis. So I just wanted to revisit that with the committee so that you're sort of aware of the pattern. The schools, the levels that I talked about, preschool, elementary, middle, high school, will present their school improvement plans in January, typically when they present their budgets. So it'll be in a district plan. You'll sort of set that direction, and then the schools will align with that plan.
Thank you, Dr. Connie. Any questions or comments from the school committee? Okay. Great. So we'll move on to the next items, facilities and finance and Fox Hill Building Committee. Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you. We have submitted our OPM RFS to the MSBA, Massachusetts School Building Authority. The deadline for that was July 14th. They are reviewing that RFS right now. If we get it back and we follow the schedule for the OPM selection, July 28th would be our next date to submit that to the Central Register. And then it would appear for publication on August 3rd. And then the RFS would be due back to us by August 17th. So again, we're looking for approval from the MSBA in order for us to move to our next steps.
Thank you. The next item is the VHS update.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, Ms. Simon, sorry.
I just wanted to know, Mr. Cuna, we don't have any next meetings scheduled. When do you see that we would have a need for the next school building committee meeting? After the bids are in, or what are you thinking?
Through the chair, I would say between now and the next 2 weeks makes sense, given that the MSBA approves our RFS. I believe that they will, but in the odd chance that they don't, it's going to delay our scheduled timeline. So I'm really waiting for their response to say that we're good to go. And then we have about almost approximately a month before the bids would be due. So I think there's plenty of time for us to have a meeting prior to that August 17th date.
Okay.
Let's move on to the VHS update, please.
There's no update for this standing item.
Excellent. And on to summer projects update.
Again, thank you. I think a recurring theme with some of these updates is going to be the climate of the construction industry right now. We're seeing some delays, we're seeing some deficiencies in workforce. But again, all of these projects look like they will be moving forward. The big project that we're working on right now, of course, is Varsity Field here at Burlington High School. We have anticipated starting July 5th. That date has come and gone. Right now, we're looking at August 1st, but pushing really hard to move that up a week. Again, that's due to delays in getting the materials here. So we chose not to rip up the current field until we had a shipping date for the new turf. Because of that, again, we're looking at August 1st, but if we can push it sooner, we will. Playground, Francis Wyman, we have original drawings, we have some meetings scheduled. We're really just trying to finalize those plans. The way we're looking at that right now and the companies that we're looking at, we still will we will seek interest from more vendors, but we're kind of hearing right now that we're a little bit late for this summer. We also realize that removing it right now would impact the start of school, so we're not looking to do that project during August. So the Francis Wyman Playground, we're looking to solidify what the playground looks like, looking to purchase materials, and then potentially install that later on in the year in a multi-phase. Not multi-years, but maybe do the top as one section and then do the bottom as a second section. But we will not have that done for the start of school. You can stop me anytime if there's questions, but I'm going to go down. The scoreboard for fields, same. We're about a 4-week shipment delay right now in getting any scoreboards. So we are working with the company to see if we can move that up a little bit. We're also working with the company to figure out the design phase as to where we're going to install it. But again, if we can't have the board, then we can't really do the install. So that's about a month away. The Fox Hill portables is actually good news. So we are able to start on that earlier. Thing is that there are some students in there currently right now during the summer program. So we can look at either after they leave, but their program ends first week on August. So we will be able to get in there in August and do HVAC work, carpet work, and roof work in the Fox Hill portables. The field master plan. We had initial meetings this week, and later on in this week on Thursday, we are having an on-site meeting. Myself, the rec director, Brendan Egan, and then Sean Hart, athletic director, and the engineering company to start our reviewing the field audit. The next one is a very interesting one, activity bus. I have made numerous phone calls to numerous dealerships and have visited at least 2 dealerships, and I am getting the same message that the ordering systems are down right now for cars. Doesn't matter how much money we have burning a hole in our pocket, no one is willing to take an order. So that means, again, we won't really have those anytime soon. I was told by one dealership that they have no serial number, no color, but they do have a wheelbase of a van that may be coming in August. So we're waiting to see what that van looks like to see if it's interesting to us. I have reached out to other people or other companies that currently have vans or have buses to see if they're looking to sell, lease, rent, let us borrow. And so far I'm met with no, because they can't replace their fleet, right? So they're not really looking to unload any existing equipment. So we'll keep searching on that, but no luck right now.
Bob, can I just, through the chair, Lab refreshes their vans, I think, every 5 years, and they have quite a few, and they're currently leasing, again, fleet of vans. They had orders in to purchase and refresh their fleet, and they've actually had to extend their leases because and on a 5-year rotation that was predictable, they aren't available. So it's not anything we could have done differently. It's not anything we didn't do soon enough. It's just happening across the board. So
It's happening across the board in all industries too, by the way.
Understood. So again, I'll continue on a couple more. So the Pine Glen HVAC system, we did have a on-site walkthrough this week on Monday. So again, we're working through those plans. We do expect some delay in getting equipment, but we were not planning to have the Pine Glen HVAC system installed and up and running during the summer. It's a project we'll probably look to start once school starts and do it on second shift. So we can continue to run school and then operate at nighttime during that. That's similar how we completed Francis Wyman during both phases of air conditioning. The HVAC controllers for the middle school. So verbally the order's been placed, but we knew prior to July 1 that there was going to be a 10-week delay on getting that. So once town meeting came, we were able to say that yes, we do want to move forward with it so they can start sourcing that controller. So we're looking at late in August or early September to get that controller in. The labor itself is not intensive. It's really just sourcing that part. So once we get that part, we will be able to move forward there. A project that we got funded last year but had a delay just due to, again, COVID, workforces, and so forth, was the Francis Wyman Intercom. So we have picked that back up. We've met with engineers, I have, and we are updating the drawings, and we look to put that out to bid relatively soon, maybe by the end of August or September. And same, that would also happen second shift, so it should not impact the school day at all. A couple of things that we're still waiting for, which we haven't even really dove into yet, is the bleachers for the middle school and the Burlington High School music floor. A couple of things going on right now, so we're going to put those on hold for a little bit and readdress those at a later time.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhn. And I know that Mr. Foss had a question, or do you still have the question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Kuna, regarding varsity field, once you know everything's coming, how long is that project estimated to go until it's done? Is it gonna affect the start of school or kind of early season practices or anything like that?
Early season practices, maybe. Right now, we have our first home game September 16th. So we have about a 2-week jump on the start of school year before we're actually playing on that field. We have been told by the vendors prior to any restrictions in getting equipment and workforces that 5 weeks total, demolition of the existing field, installation of the new field, and the track. It's about 3.5 to 4 weeks for just the turf field replacement, and it's about 1.5 to 2 weeks for the track. So,
thank you.
Mr. Conti, Dr. Conti, comments?
No, we'd like this stuff to move along in this. We just don't control everything that we need to control.
There's a statement at the bottom of our notes that we're supposed to take a vote. Are we taking a vote on anything on this? Okay, I didn't think so. I just wanted to double check because it was a footnote in. All right, so let's move on to the best program employee rates.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll turn it over to Nicole.
So I passed out this evening this sheet of paper. It's included in your package, like the flyer that went out for best, just so you could understand the timelines of when the programs run and whatnot.
Excuse me, Ms. Kasha, could you speak closer into your microphone, please? Thank
Yes.
you.
Is that
Sorry,
better?
sorry to interrupt.
Hold on one second. Are you able to, you're not able to post this, so Ms. Simon?
I emailed it to you.
Okay, I just want to make sure you all had a copy because this was handed out here physically. Thank you.
Yeah, we have it.
So where best is a school committee sponsored program, I just wanted to have you guys approve the proposed rates from John Middleton for the employees. For the programs, for both the workshop and the news using their performance.
I move to approve the best payroll as presented.
Second, but I have a question.
Okay, discussion.
It's a total.
$35,050.
Was that out of our regular budget? I know we had discussions recently.
Can't hear.
So this program runs through the revolving funds. So we charge for these two different programs. And then also on the performances, we charge tickets like we do for the musical and play throughout the year.
How much of it is covered?
I don't have a total of what we receive for tuitions. I think there's like a split. So I think to date we have received about 18,000 in tuitions. But I think that there's that's half of the payments that people are making. And then typically for summer programs, we make about 6,000 in ticket revenue.
So do you expect it to be covered or are we contributing to it?
No, I anticipate that it will be covered. Then we have, in addition, the current balance in the revolving account is $37,000.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to move forward and a second. And I'm going to go ahead and take a roll call.
Mike and I both have our hands up.
Sorry. Ms. Massaro?
I believe when we voted to absorb this, it was that these folks were going to be paid like normal school employees. Is that the case? Or
Yes.
like these rates?
It would all run through payroll, so you guys are just approving the rates of pay.
But are the rates set by BEST, or are they in line with like union rates, or is it something completely separate?
Separate. The rates that you have that I emailed to you and that I passed out this evening was what was provided to me from John Middleton.
Okay.
Ms. Simon?
I also wanted to clarify that the BEST program is self-funding. Is that accurate, Ms. Kasha?
Yes, that's the intent of the programs that run through.
Is there a separate revolving account for BEST, or is that subsumed under another revolving account?
No, it's all through the music theater revolving account.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. It's all through the which account?
The music theater revolving.
Music theater revolving account. Is that the same as the music department revolving account?
Yes, there's only one.
There's only one. I'm not opposed to having these salaries approved. And I know I voted to have this go through the school department, but Dr. Conti, I'd like to request at a future meeting that you explain to us again how this works, because number one, this is a program that's not available to all of our students. And I thought it was self-funding, and if it's going through the other music department revolving account, then there could be monies that were, I don't know where they would have come from, but from a theater that the school department was running. I just don't feel clear about it. And the other issue that I would like to discuss, Dr. Conti, is if it's sort of part of the school district and it's not sort of part of the school district, and who gets to hear about it, and there's a waiting, not a waiting list, but there's a limit on how many students they can take. So which students get notified, and how do students get chosen? And I have a lot of questions about how it's being run and how it's related to the school department. It's clearly being run by staff of the school department.
Yo, I want to speak.
Yeah, buddy.
So I'm just very confused, and I know there are parents who didn't know. Some kids maybe got flyers to bring home, and some kids didn't get flyers to bring home, and I just am very concerned about. It's sort of it's like eligibility kind of thing almost. Plus, and the cost of it is, if it's a private program, the cost of it is what it costs. But then how are we, I don't know what our relationship is, other than that we agreed that they could do their payroll through our business office. And I would really like some clarification and maybe some discussion about that because of all these concerns. Is that something that you think we could do in the future, Dr. Conti?
Through the chair, again, certainly. And Ms. Simon, I would just respectfully ask that could you send me some of those questions in an email, just because there was a long list. And
yes.
Mr. Middleton said that he would make himself available. And again, having it be a school-based program, school department-based program, also allows the use of our facilities as well. So, but I'm sure Mr. Middleton can address how many students are participating and how he communicated the opportunity. And I'm sure I'm missing some of the questions, but we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
All right, so again, I'm going to take a roll call for the vote unless there are any other hands up. We're good, okay.
Been waiting patiently to speak.
Ms. Monaco?
Just saying.
Oh, hand raised.
Yeah,
Is this, who's speaking?
George.
George, unless you have a comment in.
Yes, I do.
Make
I have
about
a comment.
all right, very quickly, please.
Do I have 3 minutes?
No, this is not public participation. Just state what your
I
question
just
is.
want to say we support Dr. Conti in all his endeavors, and you also follow his lead and speak to, Hayes, Rick Hayes, to protect the kids. And
Do you have a
that's all I
comment?
have to say right now. What?
We're talking about the best program. Do you have a comment on the best program?
You need to be removed, to be honest with you.
Well,
That's all I have to say right now.
Right, but we're discussing a specific subject and you're not on that
You're a
subject.
loser.
So thank you.
Okay.
Right,
Thank you too. Bye.
We can hear you too. Thank you. All right, are we ready to take a vote now? Ms. Monaco? Aye. Ms. Simon?
Aye.
Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Ms. Massardo?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so it's 5-0-0. Next one is the capital warrant article, VHS for parking spaces.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bob, you want to do
Please.
this and hold it?
So again, thank you through the chair. This is an older project, 2019, so a little over 3 years. The intent of this warrant article was to put up to 18 parking spaces in the horseshoe of Burlington High School. That would be removing some grass, putting a pass-through area, parking spaces, handicap parking spaces, and then a walkway. When we originally got the quotes for this, we had appropriated we estimated $40,000 for it and appropriated $60,000. Once we got through town meeting and had future meetings, we realized that in working with the town, we needed to do square cut granite curbing. And then because of stormwater runoff and new restrictions in our MS4 permitting, that we would also need to do a catch basin, and the cost grew rapidly. So while we did do some more research and I did attend some meetings and conversations with the town regarding the permitting for that, there really was no way around us relieving some of the requirements of this parking. So basically what I'm asking for is if the school committee would like to have a discussion tonight as to whether or not to continue to pursue this. If we were to continue to pursue this, we would need to seek additional funding, either from a separate fund or back to town meeting. Right now, based on the new work required, we're looking at approximately $30,000 to $50,000 more.
What's up, Kuna? Relax, bro. Listen, I want to say we support Conti, but that chick with the blonde hair is no good.
I did. So just to reiterate, like I said, the intent was to put 18 parking spaces in the front horseshoe of the high school. Right now, we don't really have many guest spots in the front high school. We do have some out back, and we do have some on the side where either the teacher or the student parking lot is, but none or minimum really up front. And like I said, costs have exceeded the scope of the project now, and we don't have enough to pursue it as is. If the interest is still there to pursue, then like I said, I would need to seek additional funds or potentially revisit.
A 3-mile fucking long waiting list for Simon's Park. Can you imagine that? For our
If I could just address this. So he is signing, I'm removing him from the meeting and he's signing back in. I maybe be able to go in and lock down the meeting, but I kind of have to focus on one or two things for a second, so.
Oh, here, Bob, just go ahead. So Bob, the total cost of the project you were estimating, just if I get that.
Tony can play his games, whatever. Doesn't matter.
So
We support Conti.
I think the project was going to double in price. Going back to town meeting in September for money is not something that we have typically done. So again, and I think our options financially are to just
we could close this out, and forget about it, or we could, leave those funds there and wait until we have, free cash available again, probably, the next May town meeting to request additional funds needed to complete the project. So it would just be, would keep the 60,000 and then ask for an additional.
So I think that's the choice. I think you heard all that's going on now. I think trying to get the funds now, we couldn't even fit the work in with all the projects we have going on. If you're interested in continuing with this, and I do think having some parking available is not a bad thing at the high school, my suggestion is we can wait until we talk about the warrant articles for May, this coming May, and we can talk about that. But you all know prices are very volatile now, and it may go up even more, and it may be a project that you don't think is worth the funding as we move forward. So Nicole, did they cancel it at that time?
Yes, you can opt, whatever year that you decide you no longer want to pursue the project, vote to close it out.
So again, my recommendation to the committee would be to reconsider this as part of our May town meeting warrant articles, and we can try to get a price at that time. And if it fits in the free cash that is made available, and still feels it's a priority, then we can go back to town meeting in May and ask for money to complete the project. If not, then we can cancel the project and use the free cash for other projects.
So we want to put this project on hold, and there's nothing we have to vote on this evening. Okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Martha.
Ms. Simon.
1 second.
Ms. Simon.
Yep.
We can't hear you. Oh.
I had to wait for Mr. Kuna to unmute me. If I heard correctly, this project for the parking lot is doubled in price. So I have two comments or questions. One is that I would want to reconsider anyway putting a large amount of money into the front of the high school if we're going to be doing renovations on the high school. We don't have any idea at this point what that will entail. And if it involved construction in the front of the building, then it might not make sense for us to do this at this time. My other request is perhaps between now and next May, we don't have to decide anything until next May's town meeting, at which point we can see if there's money available for completing the project or not. But in the meantime, if Mr. Kuna and Dr. Conti could maybe look into and speak with Mr. Sullivan, I do think having a few more visitor spaces would be helpful. Maybe there's a way that we could dig out of the front circle a few parking spots, that could be, instead of the whole project, it could maybe be a few new parking spots along the circle. If it were safe, I'm not sure what it would look like. I'm not the engineer, but maybe there's a simpler project that we could do using our own staff, and the town's own staff, or, part of the money that was set aside for this project. So to consider a smaller project that could tide us over until we know what the Burlington High School renovations will be looking like. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Simon. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Ms. Monaco.
I tend to agree, Martha, on putting it off. I never was very much of a fan of this project because it disturbs so much green space in front of the building. I don't know extent of our needs. There's so much asphalt already. I wonder if there might be a way to come up with spaces, make some changes without adding to the asphalt. I don't know. I'm not trying to come up with that answer. But my personal opinion on this is that I would just as soon return this money to the town and look at it in the future in a different way. Hopefully not disturb all of that
green area. Thank you, Ms. Monaco. Any other comments? Mr. Cuna.
I just wanted to add, through the chair, thank you. So for everyone who's at home listening, or for all of you, this building is surrounded by a lot of wetlands, so that inhibits some of the work that we can do. And also the horseshoe is considered a fire lane, so it's for drop off only, no standing, no parking. While people do park there, I do want to remind people that it is a fire lane. So again, we're not really supposed to be parking there, which is why the intention of adding more spaces up front for people coming in to visit the high school or registration or anything like that would have a place to park and not tie up the horseshoe. So again, we will look, if you all decide to hold this, thank you, that's great. But we will look at maybe reducing the project or potentially delaying the project further.
So, Madam Chair, again, the only vote that will be required is if you want to end the project back. So, and my recommendation is we just take a pause, but we're just explaining why we're taking a pause.
And I'm agreeable to taking a pause, and then we can vote to return the funds if we feel like we need to later. Anyone have any additional comments on it or disagree with that? Speak up now. Okay, then we'll move on to the next item. Close out the capital warrant articles.
Again, thank you, Madam Chair. You've done this in the past, so these are projects that are completed that have come in under the dollar amount that was made available by town meeting, because that money is only to be used for that particular purpose. Once the project is complete, any balance needs to be voted by this committee to be returned to the town. So Nicole will go through each of the three projects. I believe they each require a vote individually. So
Yes, so there's three projects. The first is the Marshall Simons Middle School boiler replacement with a remaining available budget of $44,119.07. And the project has been completed. The school sanitary dispensers with a remaining budget of $2,720.79 in the Francis Wyman fire alarm, which has a remaining balance of $96,334.32. And in the past, this committee has just done a vote individually on each one.
Instead of a separate. So how much do you want to return it? So I move that we return it to the I move that we return to the town, to the general fund, is it? Or just to the town?
Just that we close out the project.
Close out the project and return the money in the amount of $44,119.07. 7 cents. Yes, for the middle school boiler replacement.
Second.
Any additional discussion? I'm gonna take a roll call. Ms. Monaco,
Yes, aye.
Ms. Simon,
Oh, I have to unmute them, I'm sorry.
Ms. Simon,
We could make it 3-2.
Aye.
thank you. Ms. Basardo,
Also have to unmute 1 second.
okay. Ms. Basardo,
Aye.
Mr. Foss,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so that's 500. Let's move on to the next one.
I move that we close out the school sanitary dispensers in the amount of $2,720.79. And again, I'm sort of looking at Nicole. That money goes back to the town, right? Yes.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Okay. Ms. Monaco,
Aye.
Ms. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Foss,
Aye.
Ms. Basardo,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That's 500. Let's move to the next one.
I move we close out the Francis Wyman fire alarm and return the funds to the town in the amount of $96,334.32.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Roll call, Ms. Monaco. Aye. Ms. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Foss,
Aye.
Ms. Massardo,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, 500. All right. Next item on the agenda is any new business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just got the final tiered focus monitoring review from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that came out and looked at our special education department. I want to make sure I thank Ms. Ciccolini and her staff. The review, as you saw, only had one finding. It was a minor finding that had to do with the age of consent. In terms of some of the paperwork, we will be making that change. You had the full report sent to you as part of this packet. But I do, again, clean report in regards to special education is exceptional, and people worked really hard. It's hard for me to convey the amount of hours that went into preparing for the work and also working with the department head when they were here in their visit. So they pull a number of random student files. They go through all of the paperwork. They make sure all the notifications are going through. Again, they're really looking at this from a technical process perspective. And we have had this done prior years and had many more findings. The single finding was a pleasant surprise, but also reflects a lot of hard work on the part of the department. So again, thank you to Mrs. Ciccolini and her staff.
Thank you, Dr. Conti. Any other comments on that?
Not to comment on that, but I have something
Oh,
afterwards.
yes. Mr. Kuna, you have a comment.
No comment on that. I want to start a new
A
one.
comment on something else, I understand.
Mr. Doug Place had reached out to me in regards to an Ataxia Walk that is scheduled for September 10th. The walk itself is scheduled for the town common, but he has requested to use the Marshall Simons Middle School gym as a rain date location. This walk has happened for numerous years in a row. Only one time that I can remember in the past 6 years have we had to use the middle school. But generally this has been brought to this board and you all have taken an opinion as to whether or not that was an option. And I believe in the past we have considered waiving the fees for that as well too. So I just wanted to have that for discussion. But again, it would be September 10th and only in the middle school gym as a rain date location. If not, the Ataxia Walk would be at the town common.
I'm not sure we need a vote, just the school committee has waived the building use fees in the past, and we were just hoping that you sort of give us consent to do that again. The committee has supported this walk again for many years, and I think they've only had to use the facilities
once that I'm aware of in 6 years.
Thumbs up. No, just
Okay.
we're informing you.
Okay, it's all good. All right,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Kuna. And this will conclude the normal part of our meeting, and we do have a need for executive session under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, assistant superintendent. Anyone want a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Oh, yes, and again, the school committee will return only to return to public session for the purpose of adjournment. I'm sorry, the motion has been made. Okay, discussion on that, I assume not. I'm going to take roll call and Ms. Monaco, Ms. Simon, Ms. Massardo,
Aye.
Mr. Foss,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. We will go into executive session 500.